When approaching Weathertop in the game space of the surrounding area looks and sounds much like what we see in the movie. It also aligns with what one can imagine from reading the novel, where Weathertop is described as starting from a gray-green bank with a last slope that is steep and rocky. Weathertop is larger in the novel and game than in the movie. In the novel, it takes them half an hour to reach the top from the dell where they make camp. The game has a similarly long route to the top. In the movie, however, along with the hill seeming smaller, they camp not at the base but further up, from where they can run just a little to the top to await the Nazgul. In the novel, it is the camp in the dell that is closely confined and becomes the scene of the Nazgul attack. It begins as a comforting place, with a large fire and good food and companionship. Yet when night falls, it seems just as dark and threatening as the hilltop in the movie. In the game, the camp has resumed its use as a ranger camp, being occupied by Candaith, a ranger who asks the player for assistance in clearing out enemies that have taken over Weathertop. Due to the fact that the group of hobbits is always ahead of the player in the game, one cannot witness the same events on Weathertop or in the camp, only visit the scenes afterward. There is a major difference between the treatments of Weathertop in the three media. Weathertop is merely a vantage point for a view in the novel and game, although that view does allow the group to discover the nearby presence of the Nazgul. In the movie, it is the critical scene of Frodo's encounter with the Nazgul, and the dark and close feel of the ruins on the hill crest suit that encounter. In the novel, they visit the top by day, and the description gives the reader an impression of a more open, larger area. This is similar to Weathertop in the game, which has a wide-open feel to it despite the presence of the tower ruins. In the movie, the group does not use Weathertop to scope out the area, but the game allows the player to make the same observations of the long, desolate road trekking through the Lone Lands as the hobbits and Strider do in the novel. The landscape lends itself to the barren feel of the terrain, but the same feel extends to the sounds in the game also. There are few animal sounds present, and the only real accompaniment to the horse's hoof steps is the wind. When making one's way up the hill in the game, the road has several junctures where a choice of direction must be made. The novel's description of the climb is brief and doesn't address whether or not there is a clear path, but in the movie there is a definite path that the hobbits can follow for the first time, even in their rush to escape the Nazgul. Upon reaching the summit in the game, there is a firm connection to the novel. The white rock that Gandalf marked for Strider and the hobbits to find is there, along with the blackened stones from the fire. The area is surrounded by the cracked and broken stone ruins, but it feels much more open and less oppressive even at night than the small ruins in the movie where the hobbits find themselves trapped. A view can be had in all directions. The dell where the group makes camp is visible far below, as is the difficult terrain of mountains and the path that lie ahead of them. All of this is missing entirely from the movie. There is a passing mention of the former function of the mountain as a fortress by Strider, and the ruins can be seen in the background, but they do not visit the summit to seek clues or the view. They only go to the top to escape the Nazgul. The focus in that scene of the movie is less on the surroundings and more on the characters and their actions. Since the game player cannot experience the actual story of the hobbits at Weathertop, the developers have substituted an instance surrounding this important location. The player is visiting the hill after the passage of some time since the hobbits' visit, and enemies have established a camp there. It is the player's task to clear out the enemies and retake Weathertop. Although the configuration of the path to the summit is the same as outside the instance, and the ruins are still there, there is little else that is similar to either the novel or the movie in this instance. The final battle could be reminiscent of a battle with the Nazgul in the movie. The battle sounds are the only thing the player is likely to hear at Weathertop other than birds and wind, but only a vague suggestion of it. In comparing and contrasting the treatment of Weathertop in the novel, movie, and online game of The Lord of the Rings, it seems that the game space is reasonably similar to the novel's setting in most regards. The movie version has significantly changed the mise en scène to compress and combine action into a shorter duration.